All right, guys, let's pick it up where we left off yesterday. Remember, he saw this hideous statue, and now he's wondering if the people of the other island will come here. It was evident that the savage has been here recently, for the piles of ashes rested undisturbed by the wind and storm. The cleared circle seemed to hold its breath, locked in a supernatural silence. As the boy paused, irresolute, looking up at the towering Marae, his eyes had caught and held by a gleam of light, and his heart gave a mighty leap, for he saw that a spearhead lay on the sacred platform. Finely ground, sharpened, a spear for food, a weapon against attack. Dare he take it? It might mean death. His heart pounded. He moved 1 foot forward. His hand was damp and cold. The flashing spearhead winked back at him like an evil eye. The boy's limbs turned to water. For a second he was powerless to move. In that moment had a score of black men leaped forth from the jungle. He could not have stirred or cried. He fought himself for control. Taking a deep breath, he whispered, "It is you, Maui, who have led me to this island. I know it. Do not forsake me now." Almost it seemed as if he could see dark shadows moving among the ferns and hear the phantom whispers of their voices. But he edged forward, poised for instant flight. What do you think? He's going to grab it and people are going to run out of the woods and start chasing him? Or he's going to get too chicken to grab it? Or before he grabs it, they're going to run out? Or maybe nobody's there. There. He was so close to the idol that he could have touched it. He reached out his hand. It took every ounce of will. The spearhead glistened brightly. His fingers closed around it tightly. The towering idol cast a shadow of darkness across the green earth. Quickly the boy drew the spearhead towards him, but in moving it, he dislodged a bone. It fell at his feet. Its touch was deathly cold. Mufasa gasped. Then he whipped around and was running. But he still gripped the spearhead in his fist. He scrambled back up the path whence he had come. His heart was hammering, his legs stiff and sore. The twisted root of the mape tree reached for him as he fled. Never had they seemed so much like grappling fingers. The root's in the ground now. He's running over them, and it feels like they're trying to grab him. The giant tree ferns turned the jungle to an eerie gloom. The boy was filled with unaccountable dread. His limbs seemed weighted. When at last he reached the base of the lava slide, he turned at a right angle and fought his way upward, pulling himself by vines. At last he gained the plateau, drew up breathless and panting. The spear flashed in his hand. He looked down at it in wonder. Nothing had happened to him. Whew! He had touched the Marae, dislodged a bone on the place taboo, yet still he lived. The sun shone, the sky arched blue, nothing was changed. And this spear, aye, but it was a beautiful one. It was worth all the risk. Those eaters of men who wrought well. Now he, Mufasa, could kill the wild pig. Now he could defend himself against attack. But most important of all, he knew that he had won a great victory over himself. So many times you have big battles. It's not against other people. It's against your own self. He had forced himself to do something that he dreaded, something that took every ounce of his will. The taste of victory salted his lips. He threw out his chest and cried, "It is you, Maui, who have helped me. My thanks to you." Yuri leaped and pranced with excitement at his master's side. Back once more at his own shelter, Mufasa kept looking and looking at the spear. Happiness flooded through him in warm tides. It was not so much the possession of a spear. No, it was the fact that he had touched the Marae that took courage. And as he sat about searching for a fire stick, he sang a song at the top of his young lungs. It was a brave song of the Tohora, a hero god who rose up out of the sea to slay the enemies of his people. Tohora pai hatara no te moona hore ta pawai o torora eh. I don't know. I did my best. That's all we can do. Okay, maybe it didn't sound quite like that. Maybe you should come up with your own song. His voice rose clear and strong across the jungle stillness. Seabirds and parakeets hushed their cries to listen to the strange, intruding sound. At last, Mufasa found a fire stick to his liking, a piece of hardwood, bone dry, as large around as his forearm. Then he searched for a smaller piece of the same wood. Propping the larger piece against the rock, he squatted on his haunches before it and ground the before it and gripped the small sliver in both hands. He began to move it back and forth upon the hard surface. A groove commenced to form. A little pile of wood dust gathered at one extremity of the groove. Now the boy's hands were moving faster and faster. Back and forth they flew, while perspiration stood out on his forehead and his breath came in gasps. At last he was rewarded. A whip of smoke drifted upward from the wood dust, aglow. The boy seized a few twigs and cupped his hands with great care, blew upon the spark. A flame burst into life. He had made fire. Boy, what a day, huh? He had a great day. Well, let's find out what happens tomorrow.